I wish the outcome had been different, my friends.
I'm sorry that we did not win this election.
I can't stand here tonight and say it doesn't hurt.
It's the most important speech that no one wants to give. A concession speech isn't legally required, but it's become an expected sign of the end of an election.
I think that the country really craves it at the end of a really contentious election in particular.
One of my first bosses was Al Gore. There's a superstition in speech writing that you have to have both speeches, because to not be prepared for defeat makes it somehow more likely.
There's not the normal speech writing process that happens around it. You're not meeting with the candidate in advance and talking about themes and language that they want to use. So it's a really different speech.
In a typical concession speech, a candidate acknowledges defeat and calls to unify the country.
The people have rendered their verdict,
and we respect the majesty of the democratic system.
Though we fell short, the failure is mine, not yours.
We must now come together as a united and a unified people.
We all wake up as Americans.
You know, in some ways, a traditional victory speech and a traditional concession speech are best case scenario. They're a way of saying the election was fair and square, I won clean, or I lost clean.
Stand by.
So let's talk about those other scenarios.
well, he's not conceding anything, and I'm not either.
The 2000 election ended 5 weeks after Election Day. The Supreme Court stopped a recount, and Al Gore chose to unify the country behind George W. Bush.
Let there be no doubt, while I strongly disagree with the court's decision, I accept it. And tonight, for the sake of our unity as a people and the strength of our democracy, I offer my concession.
Well, Al Gore really provided the model for how you concede when you don't agree with the fact that you have to concede. And more recently, we saw that with Stacey Abrams running for governor in Georgia.
Because concession means to acknowledge an action is right, true, or proper. As a woman of conscience and faith, I cannot concede that.
A little more than a week after Election Day, and despite accusations of election mismanagement and voter suppression, Abrams ended her candidacy for governor of Georgia and used her speech to launch a voting rights group.
If you're using that to dedicate yourself to the cause of election reform or the cause of making sure that people's votes are honored and counted, then I can see that as being fair game.
But I implore each of you not to give into that anger or apathy, but instead turn to action.
People look to leaders to tell them what to do and how to behave.
Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead.
If a leader says or sends a signal that I'm going to pass a torch, their supporters understand that they're going to pass a torch. If a leader sends a signal that I'm going to light a fuse, their supporters understand things are going to get heated.
I think where it would be problematic for someone to not give a concession speech is if the results are absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt clear. I do think that it's damaging for the country to, not have this important speech that in a lot of ways symbolizes the essence of what is a peaceful transition of power.
Just as we fight hard when the stakes are high, we close ranks and come together when the contest is done.